Honest community, before we dive into this episode, we've got a quick free favour to ask. If you enjoy the Honest Property podcast, please hit like, follow and subscribe wherever you're listening from. It helps us grow, reach more people and bring on guests that you want to hear from. Thanks for being a part of this. We appreciate you more than you know.
Hello and welcome to the Honest Property podcast with your hosts Rebecca and Ruth. And today on our podcast we have Jade and Chloe for Mums in Property. So welcome to the show, Jade and Chloe. We're so excited to have you on here because we actually met Chloe in a toilet.
About landlord and entrepreneur.
Best conversation.
Yeah. And I was like, I recognize you. I too. They're pretty really good friends.
Especially for girls, I swear, like nightclubs and you're like getting lollipops and perfume. And then you're just going, yes, girl. Yeah, exactly. So we met, we're just so thrilled to start off that you've started something that
there was a massive
gap.
Yeah.
A massive gap. When we saw that you were doing this, it reminded us of when we were at a Girls in Property event. The very first one, I don't know if you girls went to that one, but there was so many mums. Yeah, there was so many mums in the room who just stood up and was like, I'm struggling to be able to do both invest, have a property business, but I know I'm doing this for my kid. And the amount of hands that went up saying, who's a mother here? And like so many hands went up. And so many women going, we don't have the support. There's not enough support for women in this industry. And then when we saw your Instagram page, we went, what a breath of fresh air. Like finally, there's two women who actually, So would you just explain your background and how you got started with and where you are in your property business and like why you've just both come together and decided to like fill a gap that is very much needed in this industry?
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I'm Chloe. Hello. And I've been renovating properties and flipping them for like 7 years. Wasn't doing it in any kind of business format. And this was prior to having children, mostly. And then a year ago, I took redundancy. I've got 3 children who until recently were 3 under 3. So all very chaotic. And I took redundancy and decided I wanted to go into property full time. And when I did take the redundancy, it was 2 weeks before I gave birth to my 3rd baby. So I just decided I was going to use maternity to like educate myself. And it's just obviously it is hard with kids, but I decided to start networking. And literally it was a year ago this week, I went to my first property networking group, which was the Property Investors Network, PIN. And then that's when I met Jade.
Yeah, so for me, I bought my first investment property back in 2020, so not too long ago, but then it's not really quite pretty soon. I was doing the BRR strategy didn't know any of these acronyms at all when I was doing them. Started doing property, got a couple of buy-to-lets, and then I was scratching my head at how I can grow my business. I wanted to grow quite quickly because I work full-time as well at the minute. It's like I need to learn and do something else. So I decided to invest in myself as well. So this past year, I've been part of the Property Investor Network, so PIN, 12-month program. So I've been learning about a bit more in depth and a personal growth as well. I'm a mum of 2. So my kind of why is to give my children a bit of a legacy and something to fall back on as well. And I want more time and to be present with the children, hence why into the property. But with the Mums in Property podcast, there's definitely a gap there because in terms of accountability and having that support network. And that's what we're wanting to kind of bring to life a little bit through the Mums in Property podcast too.
So we basically met at the PIN event. So a year ago in January, we'd both gone on our own for the first time. Individually, obviously, we didn't know each other. We met and instantly clicked at the beginning of the night. We sat together, changed numbers. The next day, we texted each other. And then over this past year, we've just been like accountability partners and checking in on one another. And I think just because we had that bond of similar journeys, slightly different paths, both mum of young children, and just had that support with one another. And then that's really just naturally where Mums in Property formed.
And this friendship has as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Over that space.
Also to say that you both turned up at a pin meeting, that's quite brave on your own. And then you both found each other. And I think, you know, Becky and I, when we started, like the networking events were quite intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because how old was Enzo again?
God.
Is he about 6 months, 7 months?
6 months.
Yeah, about 7 months.
7 months, yeah.
So Jade's youngest was about 7 months and my youngest was 2 months. So as well as a mum, you do lack your confidence, don't you, a little bit? So it was a big thing. And I think that's why we naturally gelled, because we just had that instant connection.
Yeah. And I think as well, when you are a new mum, and like you said, you lack the confidence because you are having the sleepless nights. And so to find people who are on the similar or like-minded path, to be able to still get excited and talk about your business or where you're going with property, it's very, unless you have people who are other mums that are have similar and want to talk about that stuff. You know, I found personally, I didn't click with a lot of mums when I was became a first time mum, because I love working and I felt like I couldn't find groups of mums who wanted to, like, who were entrepreneurs and wanted to talk about anything that was only just about our kids. And I found it struggled to be able to have a common ground. There's no offense, it's just like a common ground with other mothers, because I couldn't, it was like, oh great, we've got a baby. Yeah, you can't relate. And I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought I felt guilty for not having anything to talk about. Did you ever feel like that too?
We literally spoke about this the other week on our podcast episode, which hasn't been launched yet. But you were saying, weren't you, that because Jade went back to work quite early.
Yeah, so I was working for Sky as well, and I wasn't working there long enough, so I didn't register for the maternity. I was like I missed it by 8 weeks. So I had the choice whether use all my savings or go back quite quickly. So I went back after 3 months. I mean, it was amazing with me. I kind of returned kind of gradually, but I did have to go back. And I definitely had that mum guilt. Do you know, like we were talking about like balancing mum guilt and ambition and things like that. Kind of it's a hard one to balance, isn't it? Because you want to be out there driving your business, growing personally, but then you feel like other people are judging you that you need to be at home with the kids, and but you've got to do it feels right in you, don't you?
Yeah, and like we said, like you, Ruth, you didn't feel like you had anything to relate with those other moms because you're still you, whether you've had that child or not. And that's what we both found. Like, having children didn't stop our ambition. It only grew. And if you have that entrepreneurial mind, you can't suppress that. So you go into your baby groups and your mom's groups, you are going to stand out because they are so wanting to be ingressed into the mum life, but you're still wanting to grow your career, if that makes sense.
And I'm really glad you said that, because I must admit, I struggle to connect with, when you go to the mum groups, you've got nothing else to talk about. Like, I love my children dearly, but there's more that I want to talk about than just changing nappies, and there's more to me, you know. Definitely.
Like, it makes you feel very guilty for feeling like that. And like, I would say personally, I definitely went back work too quickly as well, because I just was Becky and I had another business, and it felt like I was cheating on that business. That was our first baby, you know, I had with you, and having a baby and a life changed everything. I thought, oh well, pop the baby out, gonna be back at work in 4 months, it's all good. God, how wrong could I
you know? One thing I think we were touching, do you know, like in terms of like dealing with that as well, I think how I cope with it, I think, is, yes, I do have the mum guilt. The mum guilt's normal. Everyone has it, don't they? But I think I try to kind of think that I'm setting a role model and example, and that's how I try and overcome that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same for you. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Keeps me sticking.
But it's hard though, isn't it? You've got to have that balance of trying to boost your career whilst being a mom, as well as everything else going, and still keeping your friendship groups, because just because you're entrepreneurial and your other mum friends aren't, you've still got to keep them groups going. But I do think I notice a difference.
But this
yourself.
But like this, I was gonna say, like, this is why it's so important, and I am so, you know, I'm personally very grateful to you both for bringing this conversation to the light, because like you said, like there's like several mum groups that you just don't relate, but you're bringing something.
You're creating your own group that is like, this is our own weird, lovely little property mum niche. And they're going to come because I think even at the property event, it wasn't a topic that was covered very much.
Yeah.
And I always noticed Ruth on Insta, like when she was on social media, just trying to find another property person who she could relate with that was a mum.
Saying this, yeah.
Or like being honest and being vocal about it. Yeah, like I find on social media there's a lot of mum property, or if there are mum property best,
they don't talk about it.
They're not so vocal.
Yeah.
No,
I was literally that person. So I remember going to a few events and like, you know, you see the same people and then you build a relationship. And then I remember one day someone saying to me, they were like, what? You've got children? I was like, yeah, I've got 3 children. And it was only then I realised I wasn't, it was almost like I kept it a secret, because in my head, I wanted to be seen as a professional, and they're my 2 separate lives. This is career Chloe, businesswoman Chloe, not mum Chloe. And it was very much, not officially, but it was like a secret. And someone said to me, they couldn't believe that I had children. And then I was like, actually, yeah, I suppose it's quite unique. I have got 3 young children. And I then actually changed it on my bio, on my work, my property with Chloe Instagram, and put mum of 3. Because I thought, well, people, yeah, it is part of who I am. And it definitely, I think for us, we want to inspire other mums. Sorry, I think we've got like,
yeah, no, that's the point about inspiring other mothers, because I feel like this property space, it is naturally, because it has been dominated by a masculine, is a very masculine energy, that having mums be more vocal in this space and make it feel like, you know, there's just a different way that women work, and there's a little bit more flexible compared to
everything. I don't know if people feel a bit like, not what's the word, not stereotypical, but you know, like when people probably don't talk about it because they think the good people are going to look at them differently. Like when you've taken your kids on viewings and things, like you're a bit nervous and like bringing them along because they're a bit chaotic and things like that. But it's kind of normalised that a bit. We are parents and you can do both. Yeah. And like now you stick in their mind all the time, don't you? Because you have that. Well, I think initially when I started, I wasn't going to let anything stop me. And I think I felt a bit embarrassed. Do you know, like I remember just one day I had to do a back-to-back day of viewings with the same company because they were an auction company. I didn't have any childcare, and I just thought I either don't go and miss out on the opportunity, or I'm just going to have to take the kids. And I was a bit embarrassed because, as I say, I didn't mix the 2 together. I was either business Chloe or mum Chloe. And I just thought, I've got to do it. I've just got to do it. And the baby was like, I don't know, 3 months old. I got him in the carrier. The other baby, because they're all babies, was in the pram. And I rocked up to these down and out buildings. But it helped me to create more of a relationship with the agent, because we were having a bit of a laugh, and he was joking saying I'm babysitting, but he's really nice. And I've got a nice relationship with him now. And he was like, yeah, you just nip upstairs and I'll watch this one. And like, I mean, there was lots of other people in the house as well, but he remembers me now. So when I phone up, I'm like, hi, it's me with the kids.
That's so cute. I think it just brings like I have a million thoughts right now. But it just brings humanity back to you. And it's like, the irony is we all know that property brings generational wealth. So why are we not talking about the next generation?
Yeah.
And the fact that they are likely already, with us. Like we have them like soon. No, we don't have them once we've peaked in success with our businesses or our property ventures. We have them as we go along. So why isn't this like more normalized?
Yeah.
Especially from somebody who doesn't have any children. Like it's really nice and lovely for me to see other women in property or other women in business navigating this space as role models, so that other women who aren't mothers yet or decide to be mothers, or just want to consider the option, know how it's even done without.
And actually, property is probably one of the few things you can
do both. There's a lot of careers, obviously, you would have to put your career on hold, but actually property does have that flexibility. You can do the two if you just kind of get it out of your head that I can't take my kids on viewings, or I can't take calls. I even like taking phone calls when the kids are in the house. I'd be like trying to run out the room. Whereas now I don't care. I just think they know I've got kids. They're not going to be quiet. I don't have a mute button for them, unfortunately. So just take the call. Don't prolong it another day or two. Just take the call there and then and deal with the business.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that, where I tried to have professional calls and my son's crying, but like, you know, kids are kids. Like, you can't stop them from being, they're meant to be chaotic. They're navigating many developmental stages. Like, you can't pretend they're a robot, because they're not going to be quiet. It's just trying to be like, how do you navigate as well? Do you apologize on the phone, or do you just
I've got a funny story. I've got a funny story. So I do bespoke deal sourcing, and I'd just started working closely with a commercial broker, and he'd referred one of his clients to me. And they're Dutch, so they're based in the Netherlands. We scheduled our first meeting via Zoom, of course. And the particular day that they wanted, all 3 kids was going to be at home, but we scheduled it for lunchtime. I thought it'll be fine. My kids are in a regimented routine. They go down for a nap. It'll be all good. Of course, this particular day, kids were not going down for a nap, and went on the Zoom call, and my 3-year-old, who's my eldest, kept running in and out of the room. And I was getting so annoyed because I'd said to him, please, like, Mummy's on a really important phone call. He kept running in and out. And then in the end, then my joiner, because we were having the garage converted, he's banging on the window like this. I'm like, oh my God. In the end, I had to say to them, I was like, would you just excuse me for 1 minute, please? I muted the call, went in, got my toddler. I went, sit down in this room now. Do not move. Do not come in that other room. The joiner was stood there like, oh my God. And then I went and joined the Zoom call again. I sat down and, oh, I'm ever so sorry about that. It's all sorted now.
What did they say when they finished?
Well, then, so that carried on the call. And then just literally as we were just wrapping up, my toddler decided to run in again, put his head onto the Zoom call and went, bye-bye, poo-poo head. So I was absolutely mortified. But in fairness, they WhatsApped me the next day. And they were like, we would love to work with you, Chloe.
Yeah, that's so sweet. I mean, I remember my partner, he would have calls with, like, to work with somebody else on a job. And then it would be like voice notes. I just overhear these voice notes, basically. And then I'd hear that person that who's got a separate business, their kid just in the background being like, hello. And I'm just like, I already feel like, you know, you're talking to a real person.
Yeah.
It's not some fake corporation. Yeah, you're actually talking to a person who has a life, and I'd rather they had one than, like, you know, they thought you were a robot.
No, I was just going to say, we voice note obviously a lot, and I'm always like, excuse the feral children in the background screaming and shouting, and every so often mid-conversation I'm like, stop doing that, get down, stop.
My little girl, she's feral on viewing. She does, like, quite a lot of the properties we go that are empty, she just does cartwheels around them, and like she always thinks we're moving into these houses as well. She's like, everyone's a holiday house to her. She's like telling people that we're buying all these different houses to live in. I'm like, no, they're not to live in. They must think we're moving around.
What do you do with? How do you find juggling it? And do you have good childcare, or do you have to take your child to viewings and things?
Hey guys, if you're new to property investing, we know exactly how hard it is to figure out where to start. That's why we created the Beginner's Roadmap. It's your guide to mastering the fundamentals so that you can move forward with clarity and confidence. Plus, you'll gain access to our free community for ongoing support. Just hit the link in the show notes. Now, let's jump back into this episode.
I have done, but I'm not going to lie, I am lucky that I have very hands-on grandparents.
Good.
But I have at times had to take my son with me when he was a lot younger, and that it was at a point where I wasn't sleeping, like, for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Really?
And that's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, mentally, because I was still breastfeeding throughout. Like, I chose to co-sleep and breastfeed. Like, maybe I'm a bit stubborn, but I just wanted to have that relationship bond with my son because I was working in the day, that I felt guilty that
Yeah.
I wanted to have sort of bonding with him. And I felt like that helped
Closeness. I
me
think
feel
I relate
better
to that.
that when I was away working, then at least I had that. And I am very grateful I was able to have that sort of like bonding time with my child. But the cost of that is not such great sleep. And so when you're trying to make decisions in business, you can feel very sensitive. I mean, you see me very
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
but this is where I could add more people besides my sister as a support. But mentally,
At least it's your sister, and she
yeah,
can
well,
just
you
tell
know
you.
that. Jade, you do service accommodation, don't you?
Yes, yes. So my focus right now is to more like the luxury holiday lets side of it. So we've had a couple of offers accepted in the Lake District. So we were in the process of going through finance and getting that through. So that is kind of my focus area right now, and I love it. I don't know. I feel I can get a bit creative, like the interiors and things like that. I can't
That's why we loved it. We loved service accommodation because it was like new from all the
Really creative, and you can just let your create like Pinterest run away with you.
No, so that is my main focus. And right now, and we love the Lake District as well. So we're trying to pick an area that we both love as well. So my business partner, and it's just we love the lake.
Can we do strategy days there?
Yes, we can.
I will come.
More work done if we're there.
I'll get it.
So talk a little bit more about your Mums and Property podcast. And so what are the points of what you feel that mums are mostly facing, the challenges that they're mostly facing that your podcast is going to be able to offer them?
So I think it's one, being vocal about, like, even just between us today, we've all said we've experienced similar things and just people aren't really vocal about it. So sharing that it's normal to have mum guilt, but how we can overcome it and how we can just manage it. Sharing that you don't need to feel less professional by answering calls and all the things that we've just spoken about. And just basically what we want to aim with it is to create a community where we can inspire other mums and we've got accountability with each other. Just really, because we're at the start of our journey, we want to document that and people to follow us on that journey and learn with us as we learn. I mean, we've got some experience, but we are still learning a lot. And hopefully, again, that will help to inspire. And even if it's not a mum in property, it could just be somebody else in property, but we just want to share our experience. And it's not just all the highs that you see on Instagram from different accounts, but the lows as well.
It's really important, isn't it? To make sure that it's relatable and real. I think with this social media now, I do it all the time. I look at how successful people are portraying and things on Facebook and Instagram, and it's like, why aren't I there yet? And it's just, bringing the lows and how, truth behind it as well. Because it's not all great, is it? There's a lot of hard work and ups and downs, isn't there? So it's just, to showcase that.
And also to say as well that even if someone is not a mum, someone knows a mum.
Yeah.
People, if he's in your 30s?
Yeah.
Or 20s? So like, you look great.
Thank you.
But, it's everyone has a mum or knows a mum or like had a mum, and I think everyone knows there's a lot of mental load.
Yes, we spoke about that, didn't we?
Yeah, there's a huge mental load, like constantly, and then you're also trying to run a property business. I think by you both being so visible online, it will give a lot of women take the pressure off and give themselves some grace to just go, perfectionism out of it, where sometimes business can be like that. It can be so
and just take that pressure off. Like we put a quote up the other day and it was like, just do one thing, celebrate the small wins. Just one thing is enough. Like everyone coming back to work properly, say this Monday, obviously after Christmas and New Year, there's a lot of pressure to think, right, I've got to get this and this done. And it's not always possible. Like, yes, in an ideal world, but just focus on one thing. Don't overwhelm yourself. And if you achieve that one thing, you've achieved something.
Yeah, that's so true. You know what? That just reminded me of this last year. This is why we started on this property podcast. We sat down on the drawing board and just talked about how, like, well, I am a mum now. Things do need to change. How are we going to make this work for both of us?
Yeah.
And still enjoy what we do. And a lot of it was we went fully into feminine mode, like, gonna wear the girly dress, we're gonna be in tune with the seasons, like really embrace our feminine flow. And for a long time in business, we haven't done that. And this was the first time where we went, I'm gonna be like, own the fact that I'm a woman. I'm going to be in tune. Be like, if we are one person's on the period and the other person's not, then we'll take it, we'll just communicate it and take it easier.
Yeah, weirdly.
Becky's a week before me. So I know. And then she knows the mind. Yeah. But like that was it. It just changes business for women, especially just having that awareness.
And I think when Ruth had Noah, like, we had to dial, and this was for my benefit as well, even though I don't have kids, it was recognizing that we had to really dial down and systemizing and finding processes, everything to make time back, to claim time back. Isn't this the point anyway? Like, really, I would rather be spending my time, as much as I enjoy what we do, I'm doing it because I want to spend time with my family and have shared memories with my loved ones. Not so much be doing the repetitive tasks. Yeah.
You don't want to be running around like a headless chicken. You want, like, time matters, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's
so, like,
really
it really
point as well, because people will often say to me, like, oh my God, you've got 3 under 3 and you're starting and running a property business. How do you have time? And it does, I think it makes you realise, and like you just said, Becky, even though you don't have kids, because Ruth had Noah, it made you focus on the business, and the time you did have became more productive. And that's what I find. Like, I don't have all day every day to be sat doing property. I've got a time block, and I've got certain times throughout the day. For example, when the kids go down for the nap, I know I've got like 2 hours. So I've got my list ready to go, and I know what I need to achieve in that time. So it's productive. Whereas if I had all day, I probably wouldn't even get as much done.
Yeah. That was a big lesson. Yeah, that's a huge lesson. If you want to be able to have children, if you want to be able to have children and have a career, you need to have systems.
And I think in 2025, there are so many things you can use, like tools you can use now. Just Google it. There's going to be a solution somewhere. Someone's made software or...
We love it. AI. We don't use Google anymore. We ask AI.
Yeah, for everything.
I know. More logical than me.
Yeah.
I get a bit
Speak to
but
most,
the reality,
and then AI.
So what tools do you, like, what things do you go to help streamline and claim your time back with your property businesses?
We use slightly different tools, don't we?
So I use Trello. Like, I like to use Trello and to go through and put things on there. But I'm also a little bit just really simple as well. I just do my notes and calendar, and I have to do reminders. Otherwise, I forget everything. I'm all about simplicity.
Yeah,
I don't like to overcomplicate things.
We recently learned about tasks, and I was like, Google Tasks. That's fantastic. Yeah. And I would just go to notes, and it would just be a never expanding list of stuff to do.
And it's overwhelming.
But Google Tasks is like, you can delegate days for all the things. So then we try not put more than like 3 things on one day that we delegate to each other.
Yeah.
And then you can separate your expanding list of notes to actual days it can be done. Makes it a lot more digestible.
So I use Asana, and it sounds very similar to Google Tasks. So you can just get everything out of your head into Asana, and you can put it, like, you can set the due date for when you need, and you can actually assign tasks to other people, because I actually have set my partner Ben up on it as well. So when I've got chores in my head and I think, right, he needs to sort the garage out, or he needs to do this and use that, I task him it now. Yeah.
Oh my God, I've never...
We've actually got a folder on Asana, and Ben's not into technology at all, but we've got a folder on there called Life Admin. So yeah, I literally, because it's all in my head and I have to constantly remind him, so I put it on there, and then he actually gets a notification.
That's so smart.
Because that takes a lot of
Mental load out of you having to keep reminding your partner. I would say that's smart, because I have to remind my husband all the time for tasks. I'm like, why don't you just look at the diary?
Yeah.
But if it gives a notification, that is so good.
Well, with Ben, I would constantly say, right, can you do this, this, or this? And then a couple of days later, I'd be like, oh, did you do this? He's like, I can't remember you asking me that. And then I'm going through all the WhatsApp messages like, here it is. So now it's just simple. And he actually knocks him off. He's like, I've completed a task, just to take the mick a bit. But
that's so good. If it's not in the diary, if it's not, what's the word?
That probably saves a lot of arguments.
Yeah.
But it's the mental load, definitely.
Do it. Exactly. It'll be on their time. So
Let's just delegate a time.
Yeah.
No, I do. I'm doing it. Like, this can be Saturday, this can be Sunday.
Should attach to the task completed.
No, and also, because they'd be like, I think he got like a speeding ticket or something, and he kept forgetting. And you can even upload pictures. I'm like, you need to pay this by then, and here's all the details. So it does make it really simple.
Yeah, that's so good.
A hack. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's my hack. But it is that mental load. That's what I always find. Because like you, Becky, and I still use notes, because sometimes if I'm out and about, I just quickly put it onto notes and then transfer. But it's just, when we spoke about this, didn't we? Like, mum or not mum, I think just people today in society, you've always just got so many tabs open in your head. And that is what is draining, isn't it?
Yeah. My mind is like non-stop.
Probably so stressy when we're trying to plan. It's like,
yeah, what have we got going on?
Funny.
So what's the future? What does the next 5 years look like? I mean, I'd love to know what your thought process is with, will you both be investing together, or where do you see where mums and property is going to be going?
So ideally for mums in property, we want to build that community. But we also want to kind of do some form of retreat and do something like a networking event, and actually in person. I think Zooms and are great, but I think there's nothing better than getting in a room with someone, is there, and having that connection. And specifically when you like to go to spas and things, to have that a bit of piece to do you that's when you think, isn't it? Yeah, and a bit of learning and things. So that's where we'd like to go with that.
So it actually all stemmed. I've got this running joke with Ben, my partner, and my friends. Every sort of 2 months, I take myself off to the spa on my own. I don't let anybody come with me. And it's actually like a working day, because because I'm out of my normal chaotic environment.
I get bombarded, by the way, which is at a spa. I'm like, I've got this idea, this idea, this idea. I'm like, you're at a spa. Okay.
For me, because I'm relaxed and I've not got the stress of the house and the kids, my creative side comes out, and I really bounce loads of ideas. And then just one day I was sat thinking, I was like, I'd seen some other people on Instagram doing other different retreats, and I was like, oh wow, a mum's retreat would be amazing, because we could just bounce off one another in a spa. Sure. It would work. And that was then where from then the podcast idea grew, because I was like, right, okay, if I'm going to do a retreat, I'm really going to need to advertise this somehow and build a following. How am I going to do that? And then that's when the podcast idea, and that's when as soon as I thought of that, I instantly thought, oh my God, I wonder if Jade would do it with me, because we would bounce off one another really well. And so, yeah. And then that's what we're thinking, like a spa retreat, get some guest speakers in so that everyone can really get value. And it's a bit like a reset for your business, but you can discuss lots of different topics and hopefully just make really good, valuable connections.
And I think to the investing together, I think I would absolutely.
Yeah,
100%, haven't we? When the right deal comes and we kind of aligned on the strategies.
I actually said, I can't remember at what point, I don't know if I'd met you once, but I said to Ben, me and Jade will end up doing something together.
Did you?
Yeah.
Tell me that.
Honestly, 100%. I just knew we had that connection, and I said, me and Jade, I know that we'll end up doing something together.
Yeah.
obviously didn't know what, but yeah. And I think we will end up investing together.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh my God. The retreat, just to go back to the retreat, I feel like this is just so needed. I can imagine like mothers coming together, being in a wellness retreat and having nourishing food and then like talking business. Like this is my cup of tea.
Yeah.
It sounds so nice. It's like, I went to a hen do, one of my friends' hen do, and I remember thinking she really catered to new mums at this hen do. Like there was massage, there was like, it was
a Zen do.
And I was like, I wish a Zen do. So I was like, I wish a retreat like this for mums is like so needed, where like you really put mums' wellness first. And I think, oh my God, please do let me know.
Yeah.
And this is
not
happening because
I'm for it, but it's definitely something we want to do this year.
Yeah.
And I just think get mums in a room together and we can just flourish and get so many ideas and help one another and work together in different ways.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a
because
gap.
you know, because also with family planning, like a lot of women are having children later and later as well, and this is like being able to actually run a business and plan having children takes like work to actually know like timelines of all of this as well, and to be able to be with a group of other women who like understand that pressure,
navigate it, figure out how to navigate it together with people who've already done it,
and share your experience. And one person's experience to another will be different, but hopefully that will inspire someone else, even if they think it's hard. In fact, I sort of briefly telling you the other day, I was in the soft play centre on Wednesday it was, sorry, and I got all 3 kids, and this woman sort of stopped me and she went, "Excuse me, are all 3 of them yours?" Because I was on my own. And I was like,
no.
Yeah, and I was like, yes, no, they are all mine. She went, "Oh my God, like how old are they?" And she's like, "I didn't know if you brought a friend's child with you or something." Anyway, she was with her partner, had such a good conversation with her. She was so lovely. And she got a nearly 3-year-old and she's 2 weeks off giving birth to her next child. So she was like, I just so worried how I'm going to do it. Like, how do you cope and how do you manage? So I was just like telling her, and I was like, it is chaotic, but you do manage. And obviously just giving her all these pointers and in a positive way, where sometimes obviously when you're pregnant, people give you unsolicited advice, but I was giving it a really good positive spin. And then the conversation went on. I mean, I was chatting to them for ages. They're literally wanting to do property investing. They've been looking into it. They've got their house on the market, all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God. So we swapped numbers, and I'm trying to get...
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I've invited them to like the pin event that we go to, told them loads of like really useful resources because they're literally about to have another baby. So I was like, listen to some podcasts, listen to some webinars, just build up a bit of knowledge that way. But I was like, you definitely can do it, like 100%. And it felt really good to be in that position to advise someone like, no, go for it.
And you've already given her support in like having the self-belief, which is the first step.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to what we were just saying earlier. You don't always connect with the forced group that you think you should be in, of going to a mum's baby and toddler group and there's no one really there that you've in line with, but just these random conversations at the soft play, and you meet someone completely on your wavelength.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't use that. I don't know anyway.
I've been talking with conversation and
just to wrap up this episode, I've loved chatting to you ladies because it's just so refreshing. It's just so refreshing to just talk to other women in business who are also mothers and just get it. And like I said, everyone knows a mother or has a mother, and shedding more light on and having more empathy,
like taking away the shame of the fact you have
children, like it's a bad thing. And I think like that needs to be.
This is like for most people, our family, including obviously our children, is the biggest why for doing the businesses that we do in the first place. So why do we
feel ashamed
separating or segregating those parts of our life? And like your examples of showing that you are mothers actually makes you is advantageous, really, because it makes people see that you're real people.
Yeah.
Agree.
So when is Mums in Property launching? Do you know yet?
Oh, January.
Not
this month.
Okay. What's it?
A few delays.
Whatever, yeah, I didn't.
There's valid reasons for that.
Yeah, it should be in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. We've got
Oh,
when it
where
does
can they
launch.
find?
When it does launch, there'll be like at least 3, 4, 5 episodes.
Yeah.
You can binge listen.
We'll share it.
Yeah, we'll share
Thank
it
you.
to our
Thank you
community
so
as
much.
well.
Where can anyone?
So the podcast will launch on obviously the usual platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It'll be on YouTube, and then our Mums in Property, which is Instagram at mums.inproperty.
Amazing. So put that in the show notes wherever they're going to be, so that listeners can get in touch with Jade and Chloe and follow the Mums in Property podcast, soon to launch. It looks stunning. Like,
Yeah,
the quality of their set is so lovely.
Yeah.
So definitely give them a listen.
So needed in this space. Thank you both. Thank you, Jade. Thank you, Chloe. Really appreciate you having
so
on.
much.
It's been lovely. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, thank you so much, lady. Bye.